Thank you, Sunil. That was really good. I would like to take up this opportunity to introduce a very inspirational speaker who I think and I've always admired. It is Swati Dave. Swati is the CEO of Export Finance Australia, and she's on the board for many different issues. She's also she's a part of the Chief Executive Women's, which includes only 650 very successful women in Australia. So well done, Swati. And don't go by her little girl looks. See how little she looks? But behind this little girl looks, there's a lot of determination, a lot of organizational skills that she has. And I'm sure it was not all plain sailing. There must be a lot of struggles on the way. So Swati, welcome, and looking forward to listening to you.
So thank you, Pallu. I don't know about inspirational, but let me try. So thank you very much to the United Indian Associations for letting me come and join you for this very important occasion. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've really enjoyed hearing some of the comments that have been made because they're so relevant and they have so much meaning to all of us in the room. Now, before I start, I have to clarify that the comments I'm making today are very much my personal comments and based on my experiences, and I'm not representing my organisation in an official capacity. When you work in government, you have to get used to drawing the boundaries. So International Women's Day is a really great reminder that there's more we need to do to address the many challenges that women face in the workplace. What's even more alarming is that the progress that we've made over the years in gender equality suffered a huge setback through COVID-19. Women across the world have been more impacted than men because they've had more part-time work and casual roles in service industries like hospitality and tourism. And so they've suffered as these jobs disappear. They've also had the added burden of doing more unpaid care at home. Women are also more likely to be the ones who are in the front line helping people that have been impacted by COVID-19. So they're also suffering the health issues that go with it. Choosing to challenge is very personal for me because I've experienced many challenges as well as great support throughout my own career. I feel very privileged to have used my position and my roles to drive change for women so we all have the opportunity to pursue our ambitions. Choose to challenge is also important because choice becomes possible when there's awareness of the need for change. So let me share some of my early story to give you a little bit of context. I arrived in Sydney with my family on the 23rd of September 1971 as a quiet and reserved 8-year-old. My father was a surgeon and my mother was the primary carer for me, my older brother, and my younger sister. Australia in those days felt very foreign, and I was acutely aware that I looked different and spoke English very differently to everybody else. I clearly didn't fit in. Yes, there were awkward stares when I was out shopping with my parents or when I was at school. And sure, there were some very unwelcoming comments at times, but there was also extraordinary kindness. I have very happy childhood memories, and my parents always made me feel safe and secure. My father was my biggest fan, and he always took great pride in my achievements, no matter how big or small they were. Most importantly, he taught me the value of financial independence and giving back to the community. My mother created a very harmonious environment and encouraged me to study rather than help her with household chores. I was very thankful for that. Now, I learned a lot through that early immigrant experience. I learned about courage, resilience, and persistence. I also learned to play to my strengths. I loved to learn and developed my confidence by doing well at school. I enjoyed leading, and took the opportunity to be a class prefect or school captain. Thankfully, my parents didn't push me to do medicine, so I chose to study commerce because it was broad enough to have many, many career options. I fell into my banking career by accident through a chance interview at my university. I joined the Commonwealth Bank as a graduate in Newcastle, and I left after 10 months for a corporate banking role with Westpac in Sydney. I wanted to learn more about banking and business. I loved the work I was doing, and even though I was always the only woman, and certainly the only Indian in those days, it didn't faze me because I knew that I had something I wanted to contribute. Having said that, I've had my fair share of meetings where people naturally assumed that I was the secretary or the assistant rather than the banker in the room. But I worked my way through that, and some of my colleagues became my allies, and they stood up for me, and that was very, very touching. I also started to know the true value of resilience. I continued to progress well in my career, but the challenges came thick and fast as I started having our 3 children in 1991, 92, and 93. You know, once you start something, you can't stop. Now, there were still very few women in the type of work I was doing because I was doing project and infrastructure financing. So those of you who ride on the M2 or the Melbourne City Link, they're projects that I financed, right? So that's the kind of work I was doing. It was very competitive, it was very male, but the work was amazing. So over the years, some of my superiors made some very unhelpful comments about whether I should return to work after having children. Apparently, I couldn't be a good mother if I chose to return to work. And once I was at work, I was told that I shouldn't expect any special consideration because I was a working mother. I had to work just like the men. Now, these were the days before paid maternity leave and workplace flexibility. It's fair to say I returned to work very quickly each time, just to prove them all wrong. I continued with my career, although it wasn't always in the same role that I had before leaving to have my children. The roles themselves were very demanding, so there were regular late nights, weekend work, and quite a bit of domestic travel. My husband would just step in and manage everything for our 3 toddlers during these times. Those years were very tough, and we had to juggle our demanding careers and our child-caring responsibilities, and it was busy all the time. My husband also felt the prejudices as acutely as I did, because in those days, there wasn't any kind of awareness that men needed to share the parenting burden. For a very long time, our focus was just on our work and our children. There was no energy or bandwidth for anything else, no socializing, and certainly no downtime. As childcare and after-school care options were limited, we had to hire additional help because we couldn't get home in time for the pickups and the after-school activities. For some time, everything I earned was spent on childcare. And there were times I wondered why we were putting ourselves through this immense pressure. Thankfully, I have a great husband who, like my father, believed in me and my potential. We looked at the bigger picture and thought about what was possible if we continued. He pushed me to pursue my ambitions. He also picked me up when I was down and despondent. And there were a few tears along the way. Since the time I had my children in the early 90s, there's been great progress in areas such as workplace flexibility, part-time work, paid maternity leave, and parental leave. But the extent to which they're used in organizations, particularly in more senior roles, really depends on the culture and the norms of that organization. It also really depends on who you work for and whether they say it's okay to use those policies. We're now also seeing a greater focus on gender and cultural diversity, as well as inclusion within organizations. Throughout my career, I've really felt quite confident in pursuing my own style and my difference to provide a different perspective. But it's not always been really smooth sailing. I've had many appraisals where I've been told I needed to change my style and become more vocal and visible like my male peers. Well, don't know how that went. So after 30 very rewarding and eventful years in banking, I started to pursue my board career. This was also breaking new ground, as getting board roles requires you to be known by the board community and having a really different network than what you have in your executive roles. Notwithstanding that, I have built a portfolio that I was passionate about and which allowed me to contribute to areas that I was interested in. So while I was doing that, I was approached for my current role as the Managing Director and CEO of Export Finance Australia. This is a move to the private sector to the public sector from my many years in the private sector. I took the role after much deliberation because I felt I could make a huge difference for the organisation and put into practice all the things I believed was needed to empower men and women. I'm happy to say we've made great progress in our organisation. We develop women and we give them the opportunity and the confidence to build their careers. So we've built great gender and cultural diversity. However, the reality across broader corporate Australia is that women are still not faring as well as men. And Sue has raised some of these points earlier in her comments. So while we see an equal intake of men and women graduates, women start to fall off the career path very quickly, and their representation in senior roles is very low. The culture, processes, and practices in organisations are still geared to serving a traditionally male workforce. Now that defines the criteria and the characteristics that are used to recruit, measure, and promote people. It sets an expectation of what behaviours and characteristics are welcomed, will belong, and ultimately lead to success in an organisation. So while there's a greater awareness of unconscious bias, it will take a time for the culture to change because it's the culture that drives the behaviours in the organisation. Having seen this throughout my career, I have actively monitored the cultural and gender mix in my own teams. I've reviewed the recruitment practices to see if there's bias. I've also reviewed training and promotion recommendations from my leaders to make sure that performance rankings do not have bias. For example, are the quieter members of my team, usually women, being overlooked for promotions or pay rises? And if they are, I intervene and I challenge that. I've also actively mentored women to help them understand the environment and prepare them for more senior roles. For there to be greater change in organisations, I believe that we need boards and leadership teams to set the tone for the rest of the organisation. Their composition needs to reflect the broader community, and they need to signal that diversity in all its forms is welcomed, valued, and necessary for the organisation to succeed. There's clearly a lot more work we need to do if we're going to achieve true gender equality. There are still too few women at the senior executive and CEO roles. Women, as Sue has mentioned, are more likely to step out of the workforce to care for children and increasingly to care for elder parents. What perpetuates the pay gap and impacts the amount they have in superannuation at retirement, which again impacts women's choices and well-being. So, in the spirit of choosing to challenge, I'd like to offer some learnings from my own journey, and some of them I hope help you. So I would say get to know the norms in the workplace and how the game is played, because it is a game. But stay true to who you are, as your difference can be your strength. Be ambitious and determined about what you want to achieve, and make sure you have the skills and capabilities to deliver. You have to keep learning. because the more you learn, the more you stay relevant, and people want you to be a part of their teams. You have to be resilient because there are going to be many setbacks. I can guarantee you that. Learn to celebrate your progress and forgive yourself when things don't go as planned. Now that happens a lot, right? You don't get to a big career without having made mistakes. What I say is own those mistakes and do something about them. Don't wait for others to point them out to you. The last bit is you have to show care for the people around you, and always help others along the way, because they are going through what maybe you've been through and what you could possibly help them with. So recognize that even though they may look like they're doing okay, they can always do with some help. So I'm going to stop there. I want to thank you again very much, and I do hope that I see more and more of you in wonderful roles in all of corporate Australia. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Ms. Swati Dave. It was really motivational, and thank you for reminding us that through persistence and through constant learning, we can make our own way. I'm sure you all enjoyed. Our next performance is cultural dance. It's an Indo-Western dance fusion presented by Ghumar Girls. They are Aaj Ki Nari, fusion of 5 songs depicts women's desire to be happy. She loves to be loved. She enjoys to shop. She always cherishes to accessorize. And yet, she's a mom, workaholic, and a wife. Through our dance, we cherish to be women who just want to live her life to the fullest. So here comes Vandita Vats, Soumya Rao, and Komal Bhausar to present the dance. All best, girls.
You gotta know me. If you love me, you gotta show me. मुझसे दूर कहीं ना जा, बस यही कहीं रह जा. मैं तेरी दीवानी रे, अफसोस तुझे है क्या. मुझसे दूर कहीं ना जा, बस यही कहीं रह जा. मैं तेरी दीवानी रे, अफसोस तुझे है क्या. तेरी मेरी कहानी नहीं बन गई, तू मेरा हो गया, मैं तेरी हो गई. जहाँ जाए तू संग मुझे ले जा. लंबरगिनी चलाई जाने ओ, लंबरगिनी चलाई जाने ओ. सानू भी झूठा दे दो, इत्थे कल्ले कल्ले जाई जाने ओ. सानू भी झूठा दे दो, इत्थे कल्ले कल्ले जाई जाने ओ. मॉडल टाउन विच मारे गेड़ी, मॉडल टाउन विच मारे गेड़ी. सानू भी झूठा दे दो, इत्थे कल्ले कल्ले जाई जाने ओ.
इक्को हील दे नाल मैं कट्टिया 1 साल वे. मैनू कदे तां लै जिया कर तू शॉपिंग माल वे. मेरे नाल दियां सब पार्लर सजदियां रहंदियां. हाय हाईलाइट करा दे मेरे काले वाल वे. वे कित्थों सजा तेरे लई सारे सूट पुराणिया. हाय पुराणिया, मैनू लहंगा, मैनू
drop the bass.
दो तोले की मुंदरी ला दे, 3 तोले का कंगना, मुंह दिखाई दे दे फिर तू ले जा अपने अंगना। हाय 2 तोले की मुंदरी ला दे, 3 तोले का कंगना, मुंह दिखाई दे दे फिर तू ले जा अपने अंगना। ना समझ तू चीज पुरानी, चेहरा मेरा पीस नूरानी, देखेगा तो खा जाएगा 100 झटके। पल्लू लटके रे मारो पल्लू लटके, पल्लू लटके रे मारो पल्लू लटके। जरा सा टेढ़ो हो जा बाल माँ। केम छो मजामा के ओढ़नी ये ओढ़नी ओढ़ू ओढ़ू पर उड़ी जाए, ओढ़नी ओढ़ू ओढ़ू पर उड़ी जाए, ओढ़नी ओढ़ू ओढ़ू पर उड़ी जाए, ओढ़नी ओढ़ू ओढ़ू पर उड़ी जाए। ओढ़नी उड़े उड़े रे अखियां मुड़े मुड़े रे, ओढ़नी उड़े उड़े रे अखियां मुड़े मुड़े रे, मेरे सीने में कुछ कुछ था के ओढ़नी ओढ़ू ओढ़ू पर उड़ी जाए, ओढ़नी ओढ़ू ओढ़ू पर उड़ी जाए।
It was a beautiful performance, girls. I'm sure we all enjoyed. And on this note, you all are looking very gorgeous. Thank you for coming over. I'd like to welcome Shobhaji as well on stage. It's a small token of appreciation for all of you. Shobha Englishwar ji. And we have Komal. Come over, please, Komal. And we have Soumya. And we have our beautiful orange necklace, Vandita. Thank you, Suanti.
That was quite energetic and invigorating, wasn't it? Did you all enjoy that? Before I introduce the next speaker, I think I would like to do a very important thing, and that is to acknowledge the team which has delivered today. This team has been put together at very short notice, and I think we've done pretty well. I'd like to mention Dr. Pallu Malawala, who's on our steering committee, and Dr. Nagama Prakash, and the youngest member in our team, because we believe in taking this to the next generation, Dimple Jani. We couldn't do this without the enormous times of Zoom sessions that Pallu has organized for us. And somehow we have got here today. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much.
And Sue, shall we talk about you? Just need to talk about Sue. She's the one who's actually brought us all together. And she's done an amazing job, and we couldn't have done anything without her. It's all under her guidance. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Balu. And now I'd like to welcome Dr. Jeff Lee, State Member for Parramatta, Minister for Skills and Tertiary Education, Minister for Sport, Multiculturalism, Seniors, Veterans. How do you do it all, Jeff? I just got tired reading all of them. And I must say one thing, that Jeff has been attending our International Women's Day events from the first year that we have held it. And I really thank you sincerely for coming to each one of them. I know such a busy schedule with so many portfolios, but you still made the time to come here today. Thank you so much. If you would like to say a few words.
Well, good morning, everybody, and it's an absolute honour and a privilege to be with you here today. And can I recognise you, Sue, and your team in putting together such a wonderful event this morning, the International Women's Day, to celebrate all things great and how we can overcome some of those barriers. So, friends, special thanks to the males who are here today. Thank you for coming and supporting. You're obviously the taxi drivers to get home today, so well done. Well done. I know the feeling. To the ladies, Swati, thank you for your inspirational words. And can I say, I too like to own my mistakes. And I've made lots of them, and I will still make lots of them in the future. So I think that's a very important lesson, that we all make mistakes and there's nothing we can do about it. To my parliamentary colleagues, Julia Finn from Granville and Julie Owens, Parramatta, it's great to see you here too. Can I say that being the member for Parramatta, which I'm most proud of, is especially important, but being a minister for a whole heap of other portfolios, can I say it's been a real honour to actually attend many of the International Women's Day functions. And today I think is a special one. I hope we're all COVID safe today. But can I say that some of the things that I've seen that are toughest things is the barriers, the structural barriers for women to achieve and become as successful as they should be. And I think childcare is part of that, the ability to be able to, who is actually the primary caregiver in the family. And I think Australia has a long way to go in terms of how we actually provide accessible and affordable childcare for families right throughout Australia. And I think we continue to have that challenge. I think we must overcome, and I think, Swati, you mentioned it, in terms of there is a club. I guarantee you there is a club, which I'm not in, unfortunately, of people who become directors in terms of how you actually get appointed and how you actually stay there. So I know in my ministries I have a few boards that report to me, but I certainly try and have gender equality on all my boards. But I see Australia's come a long way. The other day I was at a veterans function, and at the Second World War, that women weren't even allowed to serve in the armed forces in combat positions. It was only into the 90s that Australia actually let women serve in combat positions. I think there has been significant improvements. We see sport, for instance. Many of the female sports have a tough time actually getting the recognition and sponsorship and resources that they so deserve. And that's why I'm actively encouraging. There is a lot of programs that we run to actually make sure that we highlight the need for women's participation, especially when they're going through teenage years. Women tend to drop out of sports because of peer group pressures and different pressures in life. So we're looking at how we can do that. But certainly the opportunity to showcase role models is so important. So can I say to all the more successful ladies here, and everyone's successful, of course, but you provide an excellent role model. Sue, you're fantastic, and your team, and Doctor, you're very good at providing the role models, because I always say you can't be what you can't see. So we have to promote those role models. We have to let them mentor the younger people to come through. Yes, we do have challenges at the board level and in senior management. I come from a higher education background. It's one of the few industries that actually there are more women in senior positions than there are males in higher education. So politics itself is actually appalling at that. So I do, even my own party, it is terrible. And it's very hard to change that challenge for various reasons. But can I wish everybody all the best for International Women's Day? I hope you have a good time. Well done, the UIA, on your fantastic event again. Crowded is the room, so well done. Well done, Sue. I thought we saw each other 2 weeks ago. There's Dave there. You're not a woman, Dave. You're a bloke. Just saying, Dave. Just saying there. Stop putting up your hand. It's not your day. But thank you very much. It's a real honour and a privilege to join you once again, Sue. I wish everybody all the best, and it is fantastic to come along again, once again, and support you, Sue, and International Women's Day. Thank you very much. I'm Jeff Lee, MP. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jeff. It was actually lovely speech. I would like to ask Dr. Vyas to please come over on stage for a token of appreciation.